500 broke its 14th record in January, and then favorable corporate earnings reports, as well as a congressional stopgap measure to fund the federal government, and a 2.6% annual rate of growth for the fourth quarter GDP helped investors' confidence in equities. Overall, the benchmark indexes posted their fourth consecutive week of gains, so we have not had losses at any point so far this year. And so, which is led by NASDAQ, followed by the S&P 500, the Dow, and the Global Dow, each of which gained over 2%. And then on the other hand, at 2.66%, the yield on the 10-year treasuries rose to its highest level in over 4 years, as demand for long-term bonds fell while the dollar continued to spiral downward. The price of crude oil went up from $63.57 per barrel to $66.24 per barrel, and the price of COMEX gold went up from $1338.30 to $1353.30. So overall, all across the board, we did really well. It's been a great year in the market. And just to put some things in perspective, the Dow Jones is up 7.68% this year, and we're only in the month of January. We haven't even ended the month yet. This report is as of January 26th, last Friday. S&P 500 is up, NASDAQ is up 8.73%. S&P 500 is up 7.45%. Russell 2000 up 4.72%. Global Dow is up 7.69%. So far this year, the market is basically up 8%. And we're only 1 month into the year. That is pretty powerful. We've had a great year. I remember when I made my predictions for the market, I expect 2018 to be a fabulous year, and that's exactly what we're seeing. Usually when a market starts off this hot, it tends to continue, especially when they've lowered the corporate tax rate down from 35% down to 21%. So that stimulates the economy. That's putting more, quote unquote, putting more jobs out there, and ultimately putting more money into the bottom line. I know Amazon just beat earnings today. As soon as they beat earnings, after their earnings call, they were up 7%. I mean, can you imagine Amazon, which is worth quite a lot of money, is now up 7% as soon as they announced that they beat earnings. So once again, if you have not invested, if you're not in the market, you might want to do so, because to not do so would be leaving a lot of money on the table. Remember last year we went up about 25 to 30%. That's a really good year. I mean, there's not too many years that you'll find that are that good. So if you haven't invested, I would highly recommend that you at least look into it. And then, of course, once you feel comfortable, you go ahead and actually invest. And before we get into the meat of the presentation, I would like to say that my new book has officially been released. It's called The Legendary Asset, 6 Reasons Why You Should Own Real Estate. The physical copy is actually out. And this is my baby. This is my very first book. It's about 22 pages long. It's nothing too big, very simple. As you can see, if you're on Facebook Live, it's a very, very simple book, and it really teaches you 6 reasons why I believe everyone should own real estate. And so after reading this book, you should be highly motivated to go out and acquire your first property. I'm giving out pretty much giving out free electronic copies. If you want a physical copy, please see me or please contact me, and we will arrange that as well. So today's topic is, speaking of real estate, we'll be talking about essentially how to make the most out of your tax refund. So a lot of us will be getting tax refunds. It's something that's natural around this time of the year. I've seen some refunds as high as $20,000. Some refunds as $9,000, $6,000, and some are pretty high. So the key is, what should you be doing with that refund? And I see I see Raven, he said, I'm buying some real estate this year. Absolutely, brother. Please go ahead. Keep on the trend. Keep doing what you do, and go out and buy some real estate, because it is very important. It is absolutely important to get some real estate under your belt. And then, okay, so I see somebody else saying they're interested in a copy. Please email me at actually use this email. It's jb@badutaxservices.com. So essentially, jb@badutaxservices.com, and I'll email you a free copy of the electronic version, at least, of the book. If you want a physical copy, please also include that, and I will give you a signed physical copy of this book. It's very short, sweet, to the point, but it holds a lot of information in it. It holds a lot of keys to finding that real estate education that you're looking for. So with the tax refund, essentially, a lot of us are going to get tax refunds. Some of us go to Ghana, some of us go to the mall, some of us we do a lot of things with it. But one thing, something that a lot of people don't think about, is this tax refund. First of all, it's already your money. Second of all, it's money that can be invested. You don't necessarily have to go out and splurge or, excessively use the money. You can save for a rainy day. In this book that I just wrote, I talked about one of the ways, at least, to acquire real estate, which is through the FHA loan, Federal Housing Authority program, which you can buy a home for as little as 3% or 3.5% essentially. So with a down payment that low, and you can also get down payment assistance. So all you would have to come up with is 0.5% in some cases. Sometimes you don't even have to come out with the down payment. You just have to go through a 4-hour course on a Saturday. You have to go through some housing coaching, which is necessary anyway. If you want to be a homeowner, you should be going through these things anyway. So just for sitting 4 hours in a class, working with a coach, and you don't even have to get the credit score, the minimum credit score accepted is a 580. So you can have a 580 credit score and get a home. So with this tax refund, you can essentially put it towards that home. And remember, this book here talks essentially about the different reasons why you might want to acquire real estate. So one of the reasons is because you can essentially acquire it. You can acquire it in so many different ways. You can build that long-term wealth. And when I talk about the FHA loan, we're not just talking about a single-family home. We're not just talking about a condo. We're talking about an entire building, a 4-unit building, a fourplex. And so imagine being able to own 4 units. You live in 1 unit, and your tenants pay your rent, or they pay your mortgage every single month. Now you're cash flowing every single month. They're paying your mortgage. They're building you equity. And William, I will be giving you a copy. Absolutely, you will be getting one. So ultimately, it's really, how do we build wealth? It is 2018. We must do things a little differently this year. So although your tax refund is essentially your own money, there are many ways to maximize its utility. Always remember that not receiving a tax refund is actually the most ideal scenario. The reason why is because of the time value of money. Money carries time. If you're receiving a lot of money at the end of the year, that's a bad thing, because somebody was using your money throughout the year and they gave you no interest. So just something to consider is that you gave your money to the IRS or to any governmental authority, let's say the state of Illinois. They were using your money while they paid you no interest. So if you're getting back a $10,000 tax refund, it means that the government or whoever was using your money was using it interest free. They didn't pay you any interest. So you're getting $10,000. So the $10,000, you paid it throughout the year. It's your money. Now they're just giving it back to you. So what you could have been doing is you could have been investing. You could have went out and bought your first property. You could have went out and invested in some stocks, some Bitcoin. You could have done whatever it was that you needed to do in order to acquire these assets and different things. So just one thing to consider is that this money can be invested. It doesn't just have to be real estate. It doesn't just have to be stocks. It can be in your kids. It can be anything, a Roth IRA. There's so many different investment vehicles out there. Maybe you wanted to start a new business. Well, this money that you're getting back, essentially, money that you've already paid, you're getting back at the end of the year. It really, they gave it to you, or you gave it to them interest-free, when you could have been collecting interest on it. Now, let me give you a scenario. If you got a $10,000 tax refund, and I've seen this, by the way. I've seen a $10,000 tax refund before. That's why I'm only speaking of it. If you got a $10,000 refund, and let's say you received that, let's just say you received that this month. Well, let's put some numbers into perspective. The price of Bitcoin, and this is not typical, by the way, but let's just put some things in perspective. The price of Bitcoin was, let's just round it up to $1,000 at the beginning of last year. So at the beginning of 2017, price of Bitcoin was around 1,000. In reality, it was 700, but we'll skip that. Let's just say it was 1,000. That's really, we're even rounding it up, to make matters a little better. So let's say it's $1,000 to get one Bitcoin, and you had $10,000. Essentially, let's say you had $10,000 at the beginning of the year. Well, you could have took that $10,000 and you could have invested it into Bitcoin, and you would own 10 Bitcoins. Well, at the end of let's just say throughout the year, let's say you were savvy enough and you somehow were able to, let's just say Bitcoin hit 15,000. Let's just put some numbers into perspective. So Bitcoin hit 15,000, which it did. It actually almost hit 20,000 at some point in the year. It actually did hit 20,000. So 1,000. Let's just do the math. 15,000 minus 1,000 is $14,000. You own 10 Bitcoins. That's $140,000 profit that you could have made, but instead you let the government essentially get an interest-free loan. To make matters even worse, you got 0% for that money. Now, of course, there are some outliers. There are some different factors in it, meaning that you got the refund, or you would be getting this money throughout the year and not necessarily all up front. So that's one thing to consider. It's mainly just to put some numbers into perspective, just to make the math a little easier. But ultimately, you received this money back interest-free. Nobody pay you interest for it. And the market, let's even compare it to the market, the stock market. Stock market went up about 25% last year. Some went up even 30% if you look at some indexes. So imagine you not receiving any interest versus you investing the money throughout the year and potentially earning 30%. And as a matter of fact, if you're invested in anything, period, anything that earns money, you probably made some money. So just something to consider when it comes to tax refunds. It's not really extra money unless you get the earned income credit, the additional child tax credit, and the American Opportunity Credit for the college students. So unless you're getting one of those three credits, your refund is ultimately your own money. It's money that you already paid. You're just getting it back with no interest. And with me, I would much rather invest my money throughout the year and not rely on a tax refund and make money over time. That's how you build wealth, is you invest the money, you invest it now, and the money builds over time. And I have a question here. So should I lower my tax withholding? So unfortunately, with the new tax reform, it's technically not legal to lower your tax withholding, because personal exemptions have been eliminated. They're gone. You cannot claim exemptions anymore. So last year, if we were in 2017, it would have made, I would say, it would have made more sense to increase your exemptions. and ultimately lower your tax withholding, right? So you would lower your tax withholding because you could have been investing that money throughout the year. So if we were in 2017, it would have absolutely made a lot of sense for you to, instead of relying on a tax refund at the end of the year, you receive most of your money up front through, by saving, essentially by getting more money in your paychecks. You could have bought a home, you could have bought some stocks, Bitcoin, IRA, you could have got anything that it is you wanted to do, but instead some people wait until the end of the year in order to get this tax refund. So a refund is what it is. It's a refund of money you've already paid to the government. So I would but now let's bring it back to 2018. In 2018, you technically cannot change your exemptions. Now this is not official yet, but if you look at the tax code, it says that personal exemptions are no longer allowed. So that means that you essentially cannot lower your tax withholding. It has to basically be at around a fixed rate, because exemptions are what ultimately change how much you get in your paychecks. It's not the official forms. I'm getting rumors that they have been out, but it's actually the new forms won't be out for a while. But the IRS came out and said that the changes will be in effect starting this month. How true that is, I don't know. We really have to see the paychecks, or we have to see the actual pay stubs in order to determine that. But the ideal scenario, the lower your tax withholdings throughout the year, the more money you get up front, the more money you invest, it grows over time. Now you don't have to rely on a tax refund. I wrote an entire article on this topic on why it's not really a good thing to get a tax refund. I mean, if you're getting it through an earned income credit, a child tax credit, and an American Opportunity Credit, that's perfectly fine. But if you're just getting it through no credits at all, then that's a problem. That means that you overpaid to the government, and they're just giving you the money back in no interest. They're not paying you a dime in interest. And usually when you owe them money, of course, you have to pay interest. How crazy that is, it's pretty crazy. So most people, unfortunately, most Americans that get a tax refund, they spend it unnecessarily. They might go out and buy a new car that they wouldn't have afforded otherwise. Now you have these big payments that you can't handle. They might go out and buy some luxuries, a Gucci bag, some Jordans. Jordans usually come out around this time of the year, because Michael Jordan, he's a very smart man, and he knows people have money to spend on his shoes. So usually, let's say going out to a dealer, I mean, dealerships are hot right now. If you're in the car business, this is your time of the year, because people have money to spend, and they will go out and buy cars. Usually they can't afford those cars, and that's why it's so hard that's why a lot of Americans, unfortunately, are one missed paycheck away from financial distress. So remember, the tax refund, it can be spent, saved, invested, used to pay down debt. It can be donated. There's a lot of different things you can do. Remember, it is your money that you just gave to the government. Now they're giving it right back to you, interest-free. So some tax refunds are large enough really to make an impact. Absolutely. So the first thing that you can do with your refund is you can spend it. That's the first thing you can do. As previously stated, most people unfortunately spend their tax refunds unnecessarily. This can leave them with nothing to save and a bad way to start off the new year. So remember, we're in 2018. We should be investing, especially when the market is up 8% this month alone. I mean, I haven't seen a market up. I mean, we're good enough if we're doing 7% throughout the whole year. To do 8% in just 1 month, I mean, that's pretty incredible. So if you're missing out on all these gains, I would highly recommend that you get something in there, even if it's small, $100, $200. But ultimately, one thing you can do with the tax refund is you always have the option to spend it. However, you might want to think twice about spending all of it, especially if you know you have a few things to take care of. Maybe you want to get started with investing. Maybe you want to learn a new skill, start a new business. This is where it comes in handy. You might want to utilize your tax refund for that. So that's one thing to keep in mind. I mean, for example, me last year in 2017, I actually did receive a tax refund because I was a full-time employee in 2016, or most of 2016. So I actually ended up getting a tax refund. What I did was I paid off a credit card because I was starting a business. So I put a few things on my credit card. So I paid it off right before the interest-free period was about to end. I paid it off, saved a decent chunk of money because we know credit card interest can be pretty hefty. I maxed out my Roth IRA account as well as my health savings account. Not all with the tax refund, but ultimately that's what I did. Was I maxed out my retirement accounts, and then I also paid off the credit card that was about to get interest on it. And if you don't know credit card interest, they can range anywhere from 17% to 30%. That's a really high rate. So instead of spending all of your money or all of the tax refund, you can use a strategy. Split the refund into half. As a matter of fact, before you even see the refund, do this. Split it into half. So there's a way that you can split your refund. There's a form you can fill out to tell the IRS, hey, put this money here. You can even put it directly into an IRA account. Put it into a savings account, a checking account. I would say put half in a checking account. If you have the desire to spend, put half in a checking account, and then put the other half maybe in a savings account or an IRA, preferably a Roth IRA account if you qualify. Well, actually, everyone technically qualifies for a Roth IRA if you utilize the right strategies. And so one thing you might want to do is you split it in half. Use half of it, maybe you're going on a trip to Ghana. Maybe you do want to go buy a car and you use half of it for the down payment. Make sure it's a car you can afford, because this tax refund, it's like delusional money in my opinion. Because it's money that you should have been receiving throughout the year, equally or evenly. Now you're getting this big lump sum. So if you're using that to put towards a down payment on a car, well, what about a down payment on a home? Maybe an investment property, maybe a 4-unit building, maybe a 3-unit building, maybe a single-family home. Whatever it is that you desire, maybe you can put this money towards a down payment. So you can use half of it for something fun. They call it splurge money. Remember, this is your money that you were supposed to be getting throughout the year anyway. And they say Americans don't know how to save. Well, that's a very well-known fact. So just something to keep in mind. Use half of it for you can use half of it for splurging money or for spending money, and then the other half you either save or invest it. I like to invest it. I would say if you're savvy enough, if you know enough about investing, please go ahead and try to invest it. And you bring up a good point. So we got watch out for the car insurance if you get a new car. Absolutely, that is true. I remember when I was in college and I bought my first car and I tried to get the policy under my name. When they told me how much the insurance rates were, I almost sold the car. So car insurance can be very, very expensive. I mean, I've seen some pretty high rates. So you definitely want to watch out for the car insurance. Because remember, you might be getting this big lump sum of money that you put down, but what about the payments on the car? And nowadays, if you don't have good credit, they'll probably put a GPS tracker in your car and have what's known as a kill switch. So the kill switch, if you're driving, it turns off the car. They can literally, anywhere in the world, if you're driving somewhere, they can hit one button and your car would be turned off. It's called the kill switch. And so it's something to watch out for. It's much easier to repo a car nowadays, and some of my cars have the kill switch installed in them, just in case somebody wants to get a little too happy. So remember, the IRS does allow you to split your refund. They allow you to split your refund into multiple accounts. So if you're a big spender, then you might want to consider splitting it into half, where one half goes to the spending and then the other half goes towards saving or investing. Then the next thing you can do, of course, is you can save all of it. So you can choose to beef up your emergency savings. Remember, probably the biggest reason why a lot of Americans are one missed paycheck away from financial distress is because they don't know how to save money. So at all times, you should have at least minimum 3 to 6 months of your necessary expenses saved at all times. I would say 3 months is good enough, and then maybe the other 3 months are in investments or in their credit card limits. At least at a bare minimum, though, you want to have 3 months somewhere. And then you can have the money directly deposited, as I mentioned earlier, into your savings account. It does not have to go into your bank account. Into your checking account. So this might be even better. Let's say you file your taxes and you know the refunds take 2 weeks. Well, if you have a savings account that you don't really watch that often, the money goes straight in there. You don't even know that it went in. And so that's just something to consider. And then you can also choose to beef up your retirement savings. So you have Roth IRA, traditional IRA, health savings account, or HSA. This is where I believe that the true wealth is built is through retirement accounts. I utilize retirement accounts a lot. As a matter of fact, one of the first things that I do every single year is I max out my retirement account. And the reason why is because retirement accounts are bankruptcy protected. Nobody can touch it. It's money. It has tax advantages. It can grow tax-free, tax-deferred. So I love retirement accounts because they provide a lot of benefits. And I like the Roth IRA a lot because I pay taxes now at a very low rate, and I don't have to pay taxes later when the money has grown to a pretty tremendous amount. Remember, I can buy stocks, bonds, mutual funds, real estate. I can buy Super Bowl tickets and sell them as a part of my retirement funds. And same thing for my health savings account. The next thing, you can invest your tax refund. This is what I would highly recommend. So there's so many investment vehicles out there. You have stocks, bonds, real estate, mutual funds. You have notes, CDs. You have so many options. So I would recommend that if you're expecting a tax refund, I would recommend using at least some of it to invest it. It can be in anything you want. And then you can also invest in your education. Very important. I spend a lot of money on education every single year. I spend about, quite a decent chunk of change. So that is one thing you absolutely want to consider. You want to consider investing the money. There's so many investment vehicles out there. You should also think about paying off some high interest debt, like some high interest credit cards. You can donate some of it. Most people don't do this because, hey, if you don't have a lot of money to begin with, then how can you donate most of it for the most part? And then to conclude, really, just use your tax refund wisely. Best to invest all or some of it, and you do not have to spend it. So thank you all for tuning in to WGHC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station. My name is Jeff Badu, and I look forward to continuously delivering you all some content. And please feel free to check out my book. Email me at jb@badu, BADU, taxservices.com. Thank you.